Good morning. It's time for our reading lesson. Our learning target today is I can write a focus statement for my The Most Important Thing About Schools book. Now, what is the job of a focus statement? A focus statement introduces the reader to your topic or what you will be writing about. Now, here are the parts of our most important things about schools book. Now, this is an informative writing that informs the reader using facts and details about a topic. So, our different parts is a focus statement. Later on, we're going to talk about differences between two schools, the similarities between two schools, and the conclusion. So, the focus statement introduces a reader to the topic. Here's an example. Schools around the world may be different or they may be similar. Another way I could say this is schools all over the world may have differences and they may have things that are similar about them. Both of those introduce the readers to our topic of our book. So, what will you write for your focus statement? So, we will be writing our focus statement today where you will introduce the topic. Now that we have written our focus statement, what comes next? So we have another learning target. I can write about the differences between my school and the school that I researched using details from my notes. So we've already talked about the focus statement. Now let's look at the next part. Information about differences between two schools. So we're going to describe two differences between my school and the school I researched using details from my notes. So here's an example. I'm going to introduce what I'm talking about. So I'm going to say schools around the world can be different. Now I'm going to share two ways that they are different. Here is the first way. In the rainforest school in Brazil, there are 19 children in the school. Then I'm going to talk about how my school is different. In my school, there are 300 children. Now, that's just one difference, but we're telling how both of those schools are different from each other. So here's my second difference. In the rainforest school in Brazil, students ages 4 through 16 all learn in the same classroom. In my school, the students in a classroom are mostly the same age. So that is a second difference. Now, if you notice that I start the sentence telling what school I'm talking about, in the rainforest school in Brazil. So make sure you talk about where that school is located. Then in this sentence, I say in my school. Same thing in what I did with the first difference, in the rainforest school in Brazil, and then in my school. All right. So what I did was I had written some notes down, and what I had written on my notes was just that there were 19 children in the school. So I had to change that to a sentence. So my sentence is in the rainforest school in Brazil, there are 19 children in the school. And then for the notes here, 300 children in my school, I switched that into a sentence. In my school, there are 300 children. Now, remember, when you take notes, your notes do not have to be in complete sentences, but when we are writing like a paragraph or a paper or a book, we do need to turn our notes into sentences. All right, so when we turn our notes into sentences, look carefully through your notes about the differences or the similarities. Choose two important differences or two important similarities. Circle them on your paper. Then you take one note about the school you researched and you turn that into a sentence by saying it out loud. So that would be like where I had 19 children in the school. I'm going to turn that into a sentence by saying, in the rainforest school in Brazil, 19 children are in the school. And then I will take a note about our school and turn that into a sentence. So, where I said that there were 300 children in my school, I'm going to switch that to a sentence by first telling what school I'm talking about. In my school, there are 300 children in my school. Okay, or I could just say, um, in my school at Metcalfe County School, there are 300 children. And then we will um, write these sentences in your book and draw a picture, which I don't think we're going to be drawing pictures in our book since we are digital right now, but that's what you could do. All right. So when you write, you should always revise and edit. Now, what does it mean to revise and edit? Okay. Okay, when we revise, writers are making sure that their writing makes sense and that each part of their writing is doing its job. Now, when we edit, that is when writers do their best to make sure that their writing is correct and they fix any mistakes that they notice. All right. So, in our focus statement, we introduced the reader to the topic. So, here's our focus statement. Whenever you write your focus statement, we need to make sure that we have a capital letter when we start our sentences. We also need to make sure we have correct punctuation, whether it is a period, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. We have to make sure that we have that. When we're writing, we also need to make sure that they are 5-star sentences. So, for a 5-star sentence, we need to have the capital letter, punctuation. When we're writing, we have finger spaces, or when we're typing, we're spacing the words out. We need to make sure that it is neat if we're handwriting it. And most of all, we need to make sure that it makes sense. Okay? Now, information about the differences between the schools. So this is when we describe two differences between the schools using our details from our notes. So we didn't just make anything up. Uh, it's things that we had learned and talked about from the book. Okay, so we had said in the rainforest school in Brazil, there are 19 children in the school. All right, does that sentence make sense? Yes, it sure does. All right. And in my school, there are 300 children. All right. Do I have a capital letter? Yes. Do I have a period? Yes. Do I have spaces between my words? Yes. And does it make sense? It sure does. All right. So that is revising and editing whenever you are making sure that the sentences make sense, and that there's not anything else you can add to it to improve your writing. Editing is when you're looking for mistakes, like if something is misspelled, capitalization, punctuation. So, whenever you're writing, after you write or type your response, please look back in your writing, read it. Read it out loud to a family member and make sure that it makes sense and that you have all of your thoughts down. Then look at your sentence closely and make sure that you have 5-star sentences. Okay? All right. Um, so that is the end. So today you are going to be writing your focus statement and you're going to be telling us two differences between our school and the school that we've been researching. Okay. Remember, you're welcome to refer back to the book. I'll load the video up with this lesson so you can go back to it if you need to. And then you can also look back at the previous lesson to get some information that what we had talked about for the similarities and differences. So I cannot wait to read your focus statement and your differences. Let me know if you have any questions.